Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank, with 39 locations throughout southeast Louisiana and into the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. The Saints are back home after their training camp broke prior to going to Houston for practice and then the second preseason game, so back to the heat and humidity of New Orleans. And, of course, their first preseason home game this Friday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Ravens will follow next Thursday night, and then it's ready to roll, so the season's about here.
It is, and you'd like to think you'd see some better things here in the last two preseason games than what we've seen in the first two. Did they maybe overdo things with the schedule a little bit in terms of going in and practicing with the Patriots before you play the Patriots, going in and practicing with the Texans before you play them? And, it's one thing to go play a road game and you're in and out in a day and stuff like that, but, the last just the last 2 weeks, you're at the Greenbrier, then you're in Foxborough for 4 days, then you're back at the Greenbrier for 4 or 5 days, then you're in Houston, and all of that on the tail end of already having been away from home for a couple of weeks. It was a 3.5-week road trip, in essence. Look, the conditions up there, I get it. They're very good, and everybody will tell you that. And, of course, we'll find out in due time whether the Saints are back at the Greenbrier for 2017. But the most important thing is you've got to get your team ready for this year, and based on what we're seeing thus far, at least on the field when it's actually you against another team, it hasn't been that impressive thus far.
Well, the defense looked pretty good against Houston. That was very encouraging. Their offensive line has serious problems, and turnovers, of course, have been ridiculous. With 7 in 2 games to this point, regardless of whether they count or not, that's something that you just can't tolerate.
It's not the kind of thing you want to practice. You're right. It's whether it's a preseason game or it's a regular season game, not like turnovers are going to be any different. You got to take care of the ball. Look, credit to Sean Payton for calling some people out after the game for whether it was a Marcus Murphy, whether it was a Brandon Coleman, whatever the case may be, some others in there for these types of errors that you cannot have once the regular season happens, or else these guys might not be on the 53 come 2 weeks from now.
Keenan Lewis, of course, no longer a member of the Saints, and a lot of conjecture about that. I think it came down to health more than anything else, because nobody's going to let go of a player that can clearly help them. I just don't see that happening. I don't think this was a personal thing at all. I simply think it was all about his relative health.
That, and I think some of the younger guys who have shown some promise here in camp kind of made him expendable. You didn't have to wait for him. I think there's a lot of things in play there, and you never know the entire story being on the outside. But I think the most important thing is the fact that you've got guys who have a chance to step in and play at that position.
LSU continuing to get ready for the season, and of course the opener at Lambeau Field against Wisconsin, and the Tigers ranked 5th in the Associated Press preseason poll, and that's pretty thick company. It's somewhere they were up until 2013, and they haven't been there since.
Well, of course, last year they were right around there. Talking about early, they built their way there during the season. But to start there, yes, certainly. And of course, we remember 2011 when they started the year number 2 in the country, played arguably the best schedule in the country that year, managed to go undefeated. We know what unfortunately happened in January in the Superdome that year. But well, if you're going to, aspire to be in those, in that Final Four at the end, it will take care of itself on the field. Polls are nice, but there's enough time now that things kind of sort themselves out before the committee starts looking at things. When the polls factored into the whole BCS equation, I can tell you that's hugely important to be able to start number 5. Not as much now.
Tulane continuing to get ready as well. Willie Fritz settling on some offensive linemen, announcing some starters there. Still hasn't said anything about quarterback other than he's getting closer to a pecking order where that's concerned. Kudos to the Tulane Hall of Famers that were announced this past weekend as well.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, you got to have a quarterback behind that offensive line. So we'll see how that goes. And yes, some outstanding selections to the Hall of Fame as well. Should be an outstanding class. Congratulations to the Zephyrs. They've won 11 of 12 games. Boy, where was this a month or two ago? Would have been really good then, but still they're closing well. They are, and give them credit continuing to fight down the stretch. They were 10 under 500, built it all the way back up to get to the 500 mark. They are home all the way through next Sunday, so a lot of chances to get out and see some baseball. If you're a baseball fan, need one more fix before Labor Day and the minor league season is over.
Videos and stories on high school football scrimmages last week. It's Jamboree week. Everything starts Thursday night, then a bunch on Friday and a few on Saturday as well. Full coverage at SportsNOLA.com, as well as our previews, which continue to go up on a daily basis on the website. It's here.
It is. It's been here, and now it's really here. And look, it's it's an exciting time on all fronts when it comes to those type of things. Whether you're a professional football fan, a college football fan, a high school football fan, just that anticipation. It's like Christmas Eve. You're getting ready to open those presents.
And last but not least, again, our salute to Pete Finney. What an incredible man. What a marvelous career. And we kind of laughed because a lot of us showed up early. In the case of a couple of us, we had a radio show to do. So at about 8:20 in the morning, we're the first ones there, and there's like 7 media people there at the time, and it's all people from SportsNOLA.com, like Ron Bricotto and Bill Baumgartner and Ed Daniels and Renee Nato and myself, and a few others like Pete Barricade, Darrell Williams, and John Sudsbury. And when John walked in and said, "We have a quorum, we're ready."
Yeah, we could have pretty much had a staff meeting there. I got there a little bit later, stuck around for the funeral mass. I know you guys had to get back and do a radio show. A tremendous outpouring of support, and deservedly so. I mean, the Archbishop was there to help, to assist, Pete's grandson, Peter III, in performing the funeral mass. Extraordinarily well done and a terrific tribute. Pete Jr. actually posted a copy of his eulogy, and it was outstanding. Look, first and foremost, Pete Finney was a great storyteller and wordsmith, terrific family man as well. The thing you need to know is that has trickled down, through his genes, and you could see it in the ability of his son and his grandson to be able to express their feelings.
A life well lived. He'll be missed tremendously. Great family. A salute to the Finneys. That's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 39 locations throughout the New Orleans area and growing. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. Have a great week.
We'll see you later this week.
You have a great week as well. Until later this week, God bless.